Good evening, I'm Lynne McNamara.
And I'm Terry David Mulligan. Welcome to That Was Then, and This Is Now. Tonight, we get
to see yet another gem from the CBC archives of my incredibly attractive and charismatic co-host. Roll the tape, please. And you watch.
I will.
It was a hard day's night. We had a ticket to ride, but tomorrow never knew. It was hello, goodbye. We carried on down the track. We've come so far, now here we are, looking back. Familiar names, familiar faces, from different times and different places. Looking back, that was then, and this is now.
Yeah.
Oh, cute,
I knew
cute. What year was that, Terry?
Well, actually, it doesn't really matter what the year was. The show was Piffle & Co., and the gentleman was Mr. Bill Ryder. It was the year that the Irish Rovers were everybody's favorite TV personalities.
And tonight, Terry talks with Rovers Will and Jimmy, and I'll talk with the gentle giant Gene Kiniski, world champion wrestler from 66 to 69.
And I get to talk with the unlikeliest couple in all of Canadian radio, hosts of TV's Night Dreams, radio buddies over the years, J.B. Shane and John Tanner.
And you may not know this, but my guest, Eleanor Collins, was the first Canadian female singer with her own name as the title of a TV show.
Do you know, I did not know that. I didn't, but I do know who's coming up first. Bob Hunter, former president of Greenpeace.
In the 1970s, Bob Hunter was one of those scruffy types we watched in Zodiac inflatables trying to save the whales. Or maybe it was on the ice floes of the Arctic working to stop the seal hunt. He began as a columnist for the Vancouver Sun. Over the years, he became more deeply involved in the ecology movement, and we weren't surprised when he quit the paper to work full-time as the president of Greenpeace.
Bob, I remember when I first used to read your columns in the Sun many years ago, you were one of those really straight guys with a suit and tie, and suddenly there you were with long hair. What happened to make you that radical?
Well, the 60s made it happen, I think. I mean, I just got caught up in the same sort of strange wave that went through the industrialized world, and suddenly assumed I was part of an absolute amazing new age that, in fact, had happened. And we were living in the future already. I guess that's a way of saying I got a little stone, grew my hair a little long, got some flared paisley pants, and went for it.
What were your concerns then?
Well, actually, part of it was that it was the... no sooner had I started writing at the Sun than the ecology issue began to turn over a bit. So I was just one of the first writers to pick up on how extensive the problem was, and so I knew the word ecology maybe a microsecond ahead of everybody else, and started beating on that drum a lot. I was invited down to a protest at the border. We sealed the border at White Rock, and it was funny, I saw the clips later on television, and there was one speaker after another standing up at the Peace Tower, and there was me with a beard and screaming away about American imperialism and using some colorful images, and everybody yelled and screamed, and I remember getting home and then seeing it on television and thinking, oh, God, who is that idiot? But I was now stuck with what I'd been saying, so the next thing I knew, I got a letter from Irving Stowe saying, well, Bob, it's time to put your jeans where your mouth is, and we're going to send this boat up, and are you going to come? So, of course, I said yes.
And what trip was that?
This was the first Greenpeace trip, the attempt to get to Amchitka that didn't result in us getting to Amchitka. And in fact, they set the bomb off that year, but they canceled all the further tests, so it was probably the easiest, and at a certain level, the most successful campaign I was ever involved in.
What was the happiest moment in your career?
I suppose about the happiest moment would have been, actually, after one trip, where we stopped the Russian whaling fleet. The whole fleet gave up, took off, and they were going after a pod of whales, and we were running out of fuel, so we were coming back. This was on a minesweeper the following year, and suddenly the boat stopped. We were playing, we had huge speakers on it. We were playing some kind of Bob Dylan number, and we stopped, in this pod of whales that we'd seen, that we'd saved, actually came up to the minesweeper. There were about 7 of them, and 2 of the adults pulled back, and they showed us this baby. And they trundled along beside the minesweeper for about 10 minutes while our musician played music, and we all just stood there gaga. So that was real stuff that actually did happen.
Greenpeace has become a worldwide organization now. I mean, it's very trendy now in the United States, isn't it?
Yeah, it's, States is one of their big sources, but it's into 16 countries there's actually organized now. And that's not bad, you know. I mean, the idea was for it to be sort of a mini UN, and when it finally gets to the point where every country in the world is involved, then they'll know that it actually has run its course. And then God knows what will happen. Maybe it'll take over. Once the International was set up, that was sort of Vancouver's creative contribution to it all. But there was a great deal of sadness among the 3 zillion people on the West Coast or something who were once it. Because now head office is in Toronto, and then the really head office is in England. And Vancouver is a mini branch office at this stage. But I can't get too sad about that. What's the point of getting nostalgic about an office?
That's right.
I do, though.
They are the Irish Rovers. Will Millar, the founder and leader of the Rovers. His brother George Millar, singer and songwriter and guitarist and 50s rock fan. Cousin Joe Millar, singer and harmonica player. There's, of course, Jimmy Ferguson, lead singer, and Jonathan Winter's clone. And finally, Will Sil McDowell, accordion player. He plays anything with a keyboard. They've been together as the Irish Rovers for almost 25 years now, through 21 albums, countless world tours, and, of course, many years hosting their own CBC TV series.
I want to know about the beginning, though, the humble beginnings.
That's usually the start.
Yes, because Will has said from time to time very flippantly, you know, if I hadn't been doing this, I'd have been digging spuds.
Well, here's a fact.
Yeah. And it's probably true. 25 years ago was the big folk era. And Jimmy was working in a sticky tape factory. Joe was a cobbler, making shoes. My brother was a absentee scholar. And I was doing a children's show in Calgary, Alberta.
Just for fun? It was a half-hour show in Calgary.
Now, you were just a baby then, so you would have watched Uncle Willie.
I probably did.
I was polluted with them. I had my life made. I had a children's TV show. I was singing around the tables of Phil's Pancake House. I had a small boudoir with red lights and fishnets, and I had girls in Calgary going out with me, and I had an old Jaguar car, and I was a star in Calgary. And they decided one day, they said, that little swine is in Calgary becoming a star. They left their jobs. He left his sticky tape factory, and my brother left school, and they arrived in on me into my red-lighted beatnik plaid.
We came upon you as the angel of mercy.
I never got rid of them since.
Were you singing folk songs, traditional folk songs?
No, we were doing calypso.
Come on, what were you doing? What were you doing?
Panama. We were singing traditional songs, sometimes with no music. 40 verses of Mary Hamilton.
With no instruments, because they were in hock.
Our first break was the Purple Onion in San Francisco, really.
Did it help that you were Irish? Did it help set you apart from everybody else who was trying to break? Yeah.
Well, it helped when we met anybody that was Irish, because they took us home and fed us.
Well, you know, the Americans have always loved the Irish attitude of drinking and wenching and tearing away, and we perpetuated that myth on stage.
Myth? Not on stage, but off as well.
And off. We did. We lived that life. And
we did our share.
I wrote a book about it all called Children of the Unicorn.
Outside of the obvious humor of the band that kept you guys going through thick and thin, what was the secret to holding it all together?
Safety in numbers.
The Irish, I think, maybe he's not being so jokey saying that. There is safety in numbers. And also, strength. United we stand, divided we fall.
There's also 2 brothers and a cousin in the group, you know, and that helps too, you know. And I think one of the things that happens with any group like that, which we were blessed with, is that we are very, very close to each other, off as well as on stage.
But you know, Terry, the amazing thing about the Irish Rovers is that we have survived for 25 years on basically 2 songs. I mean, we're not exactly a pop top 40 band.
Well, I am.
There was the Unicorn, and then Jimmy, in the later years, sang Wasn't That a Party? And we have always had good crowds for 25 years in our concerts, and still really basically doing the same routine. We're still the good old boys on stage. We are what you might think of as an Irish country and western punk band. I mean, you'll be half an hour in heaven before the devil knows you're dead. But you'll see green alligators and long-necked geese, some humpty-back camels and some chimpanzees, some cats and rats and elephants. As sure as you're born, you're never going to see no unicorn.
So cute. What happened to those leprechauns?
They will be back on St. Patrick's Day, March the 17th, on this very show. And how about Bob Hunter?
Well, Bob's on his way to Toronto to study script writing at the Canadian Institute for Studies in Film, but he'll continue to write for the North Shore News.
I envy him.